Good afternoon and welcome to Conversations on Showing Up for Kids. My name is Tim Markle. I'm director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs. And today, I don't know if you realize how special you are today, Carrie. So I figured this out just earlier. Once a year, I invite someone to be the first guest of the year on Conversations for Showing Up for Kids. And this year it's you. You are the first person to join us.
Good thing I was sick last month.
I know, or else you would have been the last of last year, which is, that's like being Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL draft. And so this, though, is like being, draft pick number one, pardon the football analogies.
I'm very honored.
As you should be. So Carrie is manager of the Waisman Center Clinical Translational Core. And we wanted to talk about research today because when people talk about the Waisman Center, and the Southern Regional Center is located within the Waisman Center, and I am a Waisman Center employee, they usually think about Waisman Center with whatever way they came in contact with the Waisman Center. So it might have been maybe through the early childhood program. It could be through an outreach training, it could be through a clinic, could be through research and being a research participant. And so we wanted to take some time to talk a little bit more about research at Waisman Center. So Carrie, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the basic question. What is research? What are we talking about when we use the word research?
Right, that's a really good question. So research really is just a word used to describe a process that we use to discover something new or new knowledge. Like not to get in the nitty gritty, but the process, of course, there's a method to it. It's scientific, but really it's a way to gather data, analyze data to figure out if we can learn something new about a certain topic. And because the Waisman Center's mission is to advance knowledge about human development, developmental disabilities, neurodegenerative diseases, naturally research is one of our central activities here. But like you said, often people might not realize that just because they came to the Waisman Center for another purpose originally.
And one of the things that I like about, I know we'll get into this later, but one of the things that really draws me to the Waisman Center is the fact that the research, for the most part, is supposed to be translational, which is a really big word. So translational research. And what I learned is that because I wasn't exactly sure what that meant. Did it mean that we did research that could then be, talk to people in other countries? Were we talking multilingual? Did I have to learn a new language? And what I learned is that the research is focused on making a difference in people's real lives. So that IRL tag. So it's like Waisman Center Research, hashtag IRL. In real life, this is supposed to be making a difference in people's life.
Yes.
Did I adequately cover translational research in 2 short sentences?
Yes, I think that's a very good description of it. Whatever we learn, we want to be able to actually apply it to our lives and improve quality of life for everyone. So yeah, translate it to real life. And thank you for telling me what IRL is, because I didn't know.
I learned it from someone, trust me. It was not through my normal interactions on the web. No, it was somebody had to tell me what IRL meant. So I know things have changed a little bit in the last couple of years with research, but what are some of the different ways that research takes place at the Waisman Center? What are different ways that people participate in research or you guys do research?
So, meaning what you might do if you participate as part of a project, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, is it all done with people? Is it done virtually? Is it done in person? My daughter was in a research thing when she was younger, and she had to sit in an egg for 20 minutes. A very large egg, but so there's different ways to participate. What are some of the different ways?
Right. So we have various kinds of research going on here. Some of it is at a cellular level. But most of it does require human interaction or human participation. And so the types of research we do here, what might that look like? So families might come in and complete questionnaires or surveys. There might be an interview involved with a research study team member asking you specific questions about your life and your experience, or about your child's development, for example. We do have research brain scanning technology here. So you may be asked to do an MRI or a PET scan, depending on the nature of that specific study. You may be asked to provide a blood or saliva sample. That's usually if it's a study that's genetic in nature. Children often are playing what is essentially playing games or doing tabletop activities just to assess, for example, motor development. There's frequently psychological assessments being completed, so maybe to assess a language ability or IQ. In some cases, we have what are clinical trials, so trying to see if a certain medication is effective, or maybe a certain therapeutic intervention or psychoeducational program might be effective. That's something else you might be able to participate in. And then focus groups. We also have those as part of some studies. And I will say that largely because of the pandemic, a lot of our labs have gotten creative, and now people can participate remotely for most projects. Of course, that's not the case if you have to come in to do a blood draw or a brain scan, but even in those cases, they've now split it where families can participate remotely and maybe just come in to do the portions that need to be done in person. And I think what's really nice about that is you can participate online, by mail. I've been on part of studies where you can join, like you and I are, Tim, and just do things by virtual video conference. And so if you're a family that's further away, that's great, because you can still take part in the research and not necessarily need to make the drive in January down to Madison to be part of a project, which is really nice. And then once in a while, occasionally there are study teams that will visit a family's home, depending on the nature of the study. For example, if it's a feeding intervention, they may come during mealtime to help you in your own space, figure out how to apply that intervention best for your family. Did that answer your question, Tim?
It did, which then brought up another question that I did not prep you for, because I'm just I'm a horrible host this way. So you mentioned, sometimes researchers will go into families' homes, or they'll get groups of people together with a focus group,
Yep.
Or we may be taking a blood sample or something. That sounds sometimes scary.
Yeah.
What sort of how do researchers keep those families safe? What's in the way of researchers doing things that you shouldn't do with human subjects and families?
No, that's a really good question. So all research is overseen by the institutional review boards, and that's the case at each university. And so we do have oversight boards. So when you want to do a project, generally you apply for funding. It's usually from a federal source. So as part of your application process, your particular study, this is kind of a first step. The study is reviewed by large teams of researchers as a review process. And part of that will, if there are any questions or concerns about the way the study is being conducted through that process, there can be some feedback to certain team members, and they can alter the project. Once it's funded at the university level, we have to submit our protocols, or what we're going to do essentially, to our review boards here. And they review it to make sure that everything's being done to federal policies, procedures, institutional policies, procedures, they're there to protect subject welfare. And so that is really where the nitty-gritty is looked at to make sure that all of the procedures and processes are in place to keep our research participants safe during studies.
And that includes stuff like how you're going to reach out to participants, as well as how what you learn is handled and who else gets to see that and in what form. Because I know you don't just then release everybody's names and result, is that, you know, it's compiled and then any personal information is stripped away from it so that there's no danger of the family's information getting out. It's part of the study and the group results, not the individual results.
Right. So studies keep, unless you're signing up for a study where you're agreeing to release your identifying information, which is extremely rare, information is kept confidential, and data, like you said, is analyzed in a group fashion, and results are released or published at the individual level.
So there's a lot of safeguards. There's a number of people, a number of steps that are looking out to make sure that nothing untoward is happening with the families. So it sounds like it's safe. It sounds like research is advancing knowledge. It's making a difference. So why should people think about participating in research?
Overall, it's just to help us better understand, being at the Waisman Center, human development, developmental disabilities, neurodegenerative diseases, help us to discover treatments, interventions that might help and that are effective, ultimately help us improve quality of life for individuals with developmental disabilities and the general population. And we can't learn anything if we don't have families and children participating in our projects. So it really is a collaborative effort between the researchers and the families who are dedicated to supporting our research. And we can't learn anything without our families' willingness to participate.
And roughly, do you have any, again, non-script,
Yeah.
Do you have any idea about how many, it's not researches, how many studies are going on right now at the Waisman Center? I mean, is it like a handful? Is it tens, hundreds? What's happening?
It really varies from time point to time point. And I would have to sit and tally them all. But I will say, if you're wanting to look at the list of studies that are currently recruiting at the Waisman Center, they are posted on our website. So if you go under Waisman Center and participate in research, there's a drop down that's, I'm just making sure I'm telling you the right thing. There's a drop down that says studies currently recruiting. And you'll see the list of all the studies there. I would say there's like at least 25 or 30 posted right there, ballpark. We do have, last time I counted, we had 40 plus investigators and then many more affiliates. Wow. So there are many labs at the Waisman Center, and all of our researchers are at the Waisman Center are faculty and scientists from departments all across campus. And so some of our researchers are from communication science. These are just examples: communication sciences and disorders, psychology, school psychology, psychiatry, pediatrics, human ecology. So as you go through the list, you'll see what is the topics being studied it's various. It's there's quite a bit of variety. So you'll see studies. We have quite a few studies that look at speech and language development, social development, emotion development, hearing, learning, motor development, role of family and development. So you'll see kind of a variety of topical areas. And then you will see a few projects that are looking at the effectiveness of interventions and perhaps medications. We don't usually have a lot of studies that are clinical trials with medications. They're more behavioral in nature, but they are occasionally available.
Well, and I also, just scanning down that list, as of course I clicked on the link. scanning down the list, is I noticed that it's not just for families of children with special healthcare needs. Is you're
No,
not just that there's a lot of people that could be involved in these studies.
yep. So it depends on the project, of course, and what's being studied. So I will say most of the studies at the Waisman Center involve a parent and a child. Now that child could be a minor, that child could also be an adult. In those cases, it's typically an adult who has a specific developmental disability. And then, but of course, some of our other studies focus just on adults as well. It's not necessary, you can come in as an individual and not necessarily as a parent-child duo. Most of our projects, many of our projects focus on infants, young children, and adolescents. Some focus on adults. It's not uncommon if your child's participating in a study that you as the parent are, while they're doing their thing, are going to be completing questionnaires and paperwork that to give supplemental information about their development. And as you mentioned, some study teams are seeking individuals who we would call typically developing, and others, because of the nature of their work, are asking or inviting individuals who might have a developmental disability. So at any given time, we often have many studies that are inviting families who have an individual family member with autism, Down syndrome, Fragile X, and cerebral palsy. And so when you go on the list of studies, you'll see you can kind of narrow down if you want to look into a certain area.
So I guess in a nutshell, if a family is interested in participating, one of the things would be to go to the Participate in Research tab and see what is currently recruiting, see if anything interests them. Now, I also saw there was a tab about a registry. What's a research registry?
Yep. So thank you. That was my next, you led me right in. So in addition to looking at the website, some people like to just kind of scroll through, or maybe you're a provider and you just want to know if there are studies available for your clients. We do maintain several confidential research registries at the Waisman Center. So a registry really is just, for me, it's a mailing or contact list of families who want to be contacted as studies open up where their family might be eligible. And so we have several registries. I'll just very briefly describe. One's the Infant and Child Registry. So if you have an infant or very young child, you may want to enroll your family in that, and then you'll get notified about research that might be pertinent for your family. We have a K-12 registry, so if your children are a bit older, school age, you can enroll in that. And you can be enrolled in multiple registries at the same time, that's fine. And then we have a research registry that's specifically for families who have a member who has a developmental disability. So if you have a family member who has autism, Down syndrome. And then we have a separate registry that we run in conjunction with UNC Chapel Hill. That's a national registry that's for Fragile X.
So families who might be interested in participating in those studies can say, yes, I'm interested. They'll get put into the registry. And then when a study comes up, they'll be contacted?
Yep. And so as study teams, I manage the registries. So as study teams open up and are recruiting, they'll ask me, can you please send information out about our study to the families who have individuals in this age range who might meet the criteria for the study. And I will send out a letter with typically the study team's flyer that gives more information. And it's just a way to be notified about studies. You're under no obligation to participate. It's if you just don't want to have to keep coming back to the website to see if there's something opening up. It's just a nice way to be passively basically notified of research studies as they open up. And then you can, if you are interested in enrolling and would not like to do so online, so if you go to, you can enroll online. You can also give me a call our phone numbers on the website. I don't know if I should just give it here too, the phone number.
Oh, I just put it into the
You
chat.
put it in, okay, put it in the chat.
That way I'll remember to add it when the recording gets posted. There we go.
And then one thing I wanted to mention, we have talked about families maybe participating remotely, or what are the benefits to participating. That well, I wouldn't say it's a benefit. I do want to mention that families and individuals are often compensated for their time for participating in a project, and that's usually in form of a payment, whether it's cash or check, depending on the specific study. Children often can receive payment, sometimes can choose from prizes, which is often more motivating for younger children. Some study teams, if you're coming in from further away, will offer mileage reimbursement. If it's a large study that's maybe a full day visit or a 2-day visit, they will pay, study teams will often offer to pay for a hotel, so that you don't have to get up so early and drive down. It really depends on the visit and the nature of that particular study. And then I also wanted to mention that some study teams will provide written evaluation of results back to their families. And that for example, we have one study right now that part of the study is evaluating whether or not the child has autism. And so at the end of that study, you get a full report outlining potentially a diagnosis, and then typically written feedback would give you feedback on whatever assessments your child completed. So child's or
that research.
Mhm.
So you froze there for a minute, Carrie. So we lost you for about 30 seconds.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. So I think you were at, so families can receive, you're talking about the autism study, that families can receive possible diagnosis and I think other resources.
Yep, I was saying you can sometimes, depending on the study, you'll get written feedback based about your child's, the results of the assessments that were completed. So language, how they're performing on their language assessments, what does that look like compared to their peers? Of course, depending on the nature of the study, but you can, depending on the study, sometimes get written evaluation, results of the evaluation.
And I know obviously we would love everybody who is eligible to participate in the Waisman Center research. Is the more varied the people are that are participating, the different backgrounds, the different life circumstances, the better we're going to learn, and the more we're going to be able to learn. I'm just wondering, do you have any, because it's very possible that somebody is going to be watching this from a different part of the state or even another state. Waisman Center isn't the only place in town that's doing different research. Do you have any like helpful hints that families could, what to look for a good quality research program before they go ahead and say yes to participate in research?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a hard question to answer. I will say, even if you're out of state, you can still participate in most of our studies. But
good.
But I would say, so we at the Waisman Center are an intellectual and developmental disability research center. And there are 13 of those funded across the US. So I would say the first thing I might do, if you're interested, is to see if you have an IDDRC closer to you than the Waisman Center. That would be a good place to start. And I would, in general, probably advise looking for research projects that are coming out of a university setting. where there's a oversight review board, or there's another setting where there's an oversight board. You can go on clinicaltrials.gov. I would just caution families, if they do that, to talk about the specific research project, perhaps with your healthcare provider, before you go ahead and make contact. They can often help you vet whether it's a good study or not. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes with the international studies.
And families can always ask for what you were talking about, the copy of the IRB, the sort of the rules that are governing what the study is supposed to be about and what they're allowed to do and what's going to happen with the results. Is that information that should be readily available to every family and participant, right?
Yep.
Or am I off?
You can
Which I've been off before.
No, you can request a copy of the consent form, which will outline what the study is about, very specifically what you would be asked to do if you were to participate, what are the benefits, what are the risks, if you're going to be compensated, what will that look like? And so most study teams share a copy of the consent form prior to enrolling a family, give them a chance to look at the consent form, read about it, read about the study, ask questions that they might have. So if you're going to participate in a study, I would, of course, ask for the consent form before you make the drive in to participate.
Cool. Yeah, the research teams that I've been fortunate enough to work with and meet, they like totally welcome questions.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that families understand what, why, where, when, how. They don't want anybody wondering about, well,
Yeah.
what is this about? And so asking questions, at least with the Waisman Center teams, is very much encouraged.
Yeah, all of our teams here are really wonderful and supportive of our families, and are here to answer any questions you might have. Also welcome feedback about things that were positive, things you think might improve a study. We always welcome that feedback as well. It really is a give and take.
Well, fantastic. I want to take a moment here. I have run out of my questions that have popped up in my head and also that I wrote down beforehand. Just wondering if there are any questions that anybody would like to put in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and ask Carrie any questions about research at Waisman. Now would be a fantastic time to do it. Again, I am not just a Southern Regional Center director, but we too have been involved in participating in research at the Waisman Center and also with UW Health for the very reasons that Carrie was talking about. We want to make life better for other people. And if I could do that by participating in a study, or my children could do that to help further knowledge, we really value, being able to do that. And so I guess it's that old thing of, I'm not just a doctor, I'm also a patient, is I believe in research personally, as well as part of my job. I am not seeing any questions in the chat, or I'm muting. So Carrie, I really appreciate your time and look forward to working with you. Maybe we'll be able to have a researcher on and chat about what they are doing and more about who they are, because I think there may be some mystery behind who these PhD people are and why are they doing this. And I think it'd be interesting to get to know some of them. So maybe we'll look forward to that in 2022.
Yeah, I think that'd be wonderful. Our researchers are fantastic.
Anything else that you would like to say about research at Waisman?
No, I just thank you so much for having me. And I hope families take a peek at our website and enroll in a registry.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so very much. I will work on getting this posted so that you can, share it on your next personal evaluation. So thanks, Carrie. Really appreciate the time. And thank you also, those of you that have joined in. Really appreciate you being here today. And I hope everybody has a safe and relatively warm afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.